trying to... Oh, hello! Every time I put this on these days, it seems to be wanting to reconnect for some reason. Didn't realise it was disconnected. But anyway, hello, and thank you for joining me on this wild and windy day as we've been battered and clattered around by the terror that is Storm Doris. She's a wild one for sure. Anyway, this evening, hello Joe, this evening I am going to be talking about overreacting. So I'm going to give you a couple of ways that we overreact, and it's quite difficult to stop doing it, and it's perfectly a normal human reaction, and I'll explain those in a minute. And then I'm going to talk to you about why it's really important to stop overreacting, and also I'm going to give you some very valuable intel on how to stop doing it. So first of all, example number one. Let's say it's a Saturday morning and you think to yourself, hello Susanna, and you're thinking to yourself, right, I'm going to get up, I'm going to potter off downstairs, make myself a cup of tea, and then go back to bed for an hour and watch something on Netflix or similar. And you get downstairs and you put the tea bag in, you put the water in, all is well, and then it's time to put the milk in. And you go to the fridge and you get the carton out of the fridge, and there's about 3 drips of milk in there. And you know for certain that when you put that milk into your tea, it is not, hi Susanna, it is not going to turn your tea the ideal shade of beige that you're looking for. That's how you feel. That's the first time it happens, and you know who's done it, and you're cheesed off to the max with them, or at least you think you are. At first it's just like, so you've gone from here on the scale of cheesed offness to here, and then you get over it, and perhaps go and buy some milk later on, and you might just go back to bed and go to sleep and take some juice with you, I don't know. But then the next time it happens, next Saturday, it happens again, and this time instead of going from here to here, you're going to go from here to here. And as the weeks go by, these perfect Saturday mornings are ruined by the incorrect colour of tea that you're going to have to put up with. Eventually, you get from here to here, just like that. You are incandescent with rage. And at this point, you think of the perpetrator of the crime, and all you can think of then is everything that they have ever done wrong from the minute you met them. And you just start catastrophizing about all the terrible things that they are and that they've done. And it all goes wildly out of control. And you just become a complete overreactor. Every time it happens, somebody comes round to your house and you go, let's have a cup of tea. And you make the tea, and then you go to put the milk in, and there's no milk, and you go crazy, and they're like, oh, calm down. Don't ever tell somebody who's reacting to calm down, because that's just going to take them to a new level of craziness. And all it is that over time, your brain just learns to just up it a notch. The anxiety, the anger, it just goes up a notch each time. So if you see somebody, maybe a mother with a little kid, and the little kid does something, and you're thinking, God, she's not very cool, look at her going mental. It's probably because she's had to deal with this a million times, probably a million times that morning. But you need to understand that this is not necessarily a crazy woman that we're dealing with. It's just somebody who's been dealing with crazy amounts of the same thing over and over again. So that's example number one. If you recognise that, show me a like on here. Let me see some likes going across. I already saw a love. Put a like on there if you recognise yourself as somebody who is getting more and more cheesed off every time the same thing happens. Now, quiet this evening, aren't we? But now, the second example, thank you. The second example is one that you might recognise. It's when you are at work or doing your daily thing, and something annoys you at the beginning of the day. So here's your cortisol level is here, and then it goes up to here. And then you start to recover from it, and it starts coming down a little bit. Then something else happens and you're up here. and then it comes down a little bit, then something else happens and you're up here. And if you don't fully recover in between these incidences of annoyance, then eventually each time something comes along that day, because your cortisol level hasn't had a chance to drop back down again, then it's just going to keep getting higher and higher and higher. And if you find it difficult to sleep at night, if you've had a stressful day, that's probably the reason why. Because the cortisol in your body is trying to keep you awake. It's keeping you going. And in the morning, we get a cortisol hit to get us out of bed and to get us moving. So you can imagine you don't want loads of cortisol by the end of the day. So when that straw comes along that breaks the camel's back, and you're up here and you're like, Rah! Then that's why. So we need to avoid stress like we would avoid the plague. Because the plague will kill you, and so will too much stress. Now, the two friends that like to rage through you when you're having a moment, when you're under some sort of stress or anxiety, these are adrenaline and cortisol, and they are firm friends, but they're no friends of yours, not when you're in one of those moments anyway. So you need to really, really get rid of them, because if you don't, then stress upon stress upon stress on a daily basis puts you into this awful zone of just horribleness. You'll be horrible to be around, you'll be cranky all the time, you will be miserable. It's going to have a terrible effect on you, and it will start to affect your health. Because stress is like the most toxic thing that you can do to yourself. It makes you susceptible to diseases, including cancers. It makes you susceptible to colds and things like that, which doesn't seem anywhere near as bad at the side of cancer, does it? But just think of all the times when you're like really stressed out. Teachers, I've seen a few teachers come up on here. You know what it's like when you get to the end of term and you're like, and you relax and you get hit by the bugs, by everything going, and you don't enjoy your holiday because for the first half of it you're feeling like death, and the second half you're thinking about going back to the place where you got all the stress from in the first place. So try and avoid stress as much as you can, and here is the intel on how to stop yourself from overreacting. And it sounds simple, but it isn't. It's a practice that you need to do, and at first it will be hard, but the more you do it, the easier it will become, just like with anything to do with your brain. You've got to exercise it. So, simply, you have to use language. Because when you're having an emotional reaction to something, when you're getting all stressed out, it's the emotional part of your brain that's doing it, and it's far stronger than the sensible part of your brain. However, if you use language, it takes the power out of the emotional bit. So you need to say to yourself, I'm having an emotional reaction. I'm having a hijack here. And if you tell yourself that and say, this is not the reality of the situation. Somebody's left the light on all day, 5 days in a row. This is not any reason to start committing murder. And you need to just tell yourself that, and it will calm you down. It will bring down that anxiety level, because it will say to the emotional bits, shut up, get off, I'm in control now. Now, as I've said, that doesn't happen overnight. It's something that you need to practice. And a way that you can help yourself to do this, and I have mentioned this before in previous videos, is by using mindfulness on a regular basis. Because mindfulness helps you to be present in the moment. And it rewires your brain to be able to do that when something shit happens. And so, if you practice mindfulness on a daily basis, rewire the old noggin, and then the moment happens, and you tell yourself, this is not real, I'm having an emotional reaction. The mindfulness will help with the language that you use that's going to stop you from overreacting. Now, that is the end of my video for this evening. I shall return tomorrow with a new idea for you to ruminate on, and for you to go and take away some actions that you can use to help you to control your mind. Because 90% of your brain is subconscious. So only 10% of your brain is actually stuff that you do consciously, like behaviours, thoughts, etc. So it's time people, to have a revolution so that we are in control of our subconscious minds instead of all the crap that comes at us from the world around us. And that's what I'm all about. So let's get revolting. I'll see you tomorrow.